Donkey Kong Bonanza, the first 3D Donkey Kong game since 1999, has just been announced, and I could not be more excited. That trailer was super cool, but also leaves a lot of questions. With this being the first 3D Donkey Kong game in well over 20 years, at first it's kind of hard to know what to expect. However, after looking over the trailer frame by frame, I think I have a pretty good idea on both the gameplay and story direction this brand new Donkey Kong game will take. In this video, we're gonna go over a brand new evil company called Voidco, exactly what their goal and the main conflict of this game will be, plenty of different currencies we see throughout the game, including where to spend them. Yes, there are shops in this game, tons of different NPCs, mechanics, and so much more. We got so much stuff to cover, including obviously everything else they showed off, so hit the subscribe button if you just want to see all the Switch 2 coverage we got. But let's jump right into the analysis of everything you might have missed in the Donkey Kong Bonanza trailer. First things first, let's talk about some general themes we see throughout the trailer. Obviously, there is a huge emphasis on, well, bananas, with the title even just being banana with a Z thrown in there. However, not only is there a heavy emphasis on bananas, but these golden bananas, some of which will be this game's main collectible, as we'll show later on. There are also plenty of geometric, like polygonal rock looking characters with eyes on them, which is very reminiscent to the type of character designs Rare used to do back when they were making Donkey Kong 64 or like the Banjo-Kazooie games. They would just take anything random, slap some eyes on it, boom, that's a character. Pretty much the same thing we got here. We see some coins rotating on top of this tree trunk. However, I don't just think these are coins, I think these are going to be similar to the regional or purple coins from Super Mario Odyssey. In fact, this might be developed by the same Odyssey team, as there are a lot of similarities that we will point out in this trailer. The reason I think these are regional coins and not necessarily just generic coins that would like respawn and you can collect as many times as you want is because I believe that currency will be taken up by these golden little blocks that you get from tearing through the ground, which apparently you can do anywhere, and we'll get to that soon enough as well. Moving on to the second shot, obviously we see another character, this giraffe looking guy with eyes and a house looking guy with eyes. These NPCs will almost definitely have different quests or useful objectives to give you, but obviously we can't say what that's gonna be. We do see more of these golden banana statues though that you can likely break open to get some currency, and more importantly a minecart, which we see later on in the trailer opens up a whole new world of possibilities for Donkey Kong. One of the first hidden things I'd like to point out is this glowing tablet with some sort of inscription on it that is glowing pink and blue. Now, what is this going to be? I have no idea. However, we see it again in a completely different level in this next shot. Obviously, this is some sort of blizzard or ice-based level, and we see a lot of similar assets such as the golden bananas and these characters with eyes, but we also see that same tablet. Your guess is as good as mine as for what this could actually do, so really let me know down in the comments below. But I'll give you my 2 cents. I think that this is going to start some sort of minigame or challenge for each level, very similar to Koopa freerunning, and maybe that is the online leaderboards. It just gives me the same vibe as those floating green TV screens that did essentially the same thing and let you see the leaderboards in Mario Odyssey. Not only is this level obviously snowing, but it looks like wind will play a major factor in this level as well, as not only is the snow itself being blown around by the wind, but you can see what looks to be a giant fan letting off gusts of wind in the background. This next shot shows a very grassy open plains type area, which I would be very surprised to see not be one of the first 2 levels in the game. I mean, this just seems like a very early in the game type of thing. In this shot, you can see what looks to be a barrel right here. We see a different design for barrels later on though, so maybe this is one you have to either pay to unlock or something else entirely. There's also this glowing spot on the ground in this different colored patch of grass, which seems to be right next to this sort of hole that is actually blocked off. Likely this is something you're going to be able to ground pound through, like we see Donkey Kong doing later on in the trailer and in this game's box art. By the way, the Switch 2 box arts look really cool. I love the fact that the box itself is red and the cartridge is also red. I just think it's sick. Next up, we see Ingot Isle, and I'll explain later on why, but I truly believe that this area is going to be in the start of the game. Yes, it kind of looks like an endgame area with it taking place at night and everything, but I'm pretty sure we see the opening cutscene for this game later on, and it does take place here at Ingot Isle. Likely this is where Donkey Kong starts and also ends in the same vein as like Tropical Freeze, where obviously he starts out on Donkey Kong Island, but then he gets blown away and has to actually spend the rest of the game trying to get back to Donkey Kong Island to take it over from Tropical Freeze's villains. I think a very similar thing will happen here. We'll talk more about Ingot Isle soon enough, but next I want to talk about this mining section. You can see a bunch of metallic monkeys that kind of look like Diddy Kong. This plays into what I assume will be one of this game's main themes, which is the natural world versus the artificial world. It looks like these characters have been taken over and almost kind of look like robots now, so I would not be surprised if these guys are enemies. We can also see the classic Donkey Kong red girders, which is obviously a throwback to the arcade game here, and a little sign that says authorized monkeys only, which I think is pretty funny. On the ground here, we also see gold specks, which are the same gold specks that I was talking about earlier that are probably the main currency for this game, as they seem to show up anywhere when you dive into the ground or break apart the terrain, which we see Donkey Kong do later on. So this game is obviously a 3D platformer, but it's not a 3D Mario game, it's a 3D Donkey Kong game. How will Nintendo differentiate this 3D Donkey Kong game from, say, another 3D Mario game that maybe comes out this year or the next year, who knows? Well, I'll tell you how. The gameplay of this game is going to be so much more combat focused. In fact, we see a lot of the combat in this trailer with some awesome combos, but even our introduction to Donkey Kong is him bursting through the wall, making it extremely clear that while Mario games are more so puzzle platformers, this will be more of an action platformer with a heavy combat focus. After getting introduced to Donkey Kong, we see him running through this same grassy plains level, but now with this purple rock guy on his back. This is going to be your companion for the game, obviously. He's clearly very important as he's accompanying Donkey Kong in pretty much every shot, alongside being prominently featured once again on this game's box art. What this guy can do, we don't entirely know. Maybe you can throw him at enemies, or he'll have some use for platforming. This guy will have some specific ability though, beyond just being important for the story. Otherwise, they would not put him on the back of Donkey Kong throughout the entire game. We see more gold specks in the ice here, which you can likely smash into in order to get them out of there and collect them. I would also want to point out just how good this game looks. The character work here is so expressive. I mean, just look at that devious grin on Donkey Kong's face as he is hauling through this snow level. I wouldn't be surprised at all if momentum plays a big part in this game, because most of the levels we see here are not flat in the slightest. They almost all have hills that you can roll up and down. As Donkey Kong walks by one of these blue rock people, they actually transform into a question mark. Considering just how many of these blue rock people are around, I don't think this will be like a hint toad situation where you go over and they give you like a tip of how to play the game better. Instead, I think that question mark is going to signify something like a mission that these people can give you. Next up, we get a great look of Donkey Kong climbing up this rock face. This is an incredibly tall rock face, so I don't think Donkey Kong has any sort of stamina here in terms of how much he can climb, like in a game like Breath of the Wild, because I mean, you can see him climbing this massive rock face here. Beneath the rock face, we also see two crates that obviously are destructible, but that same glowing spot on the ground as well. Will these be used to teleport Donkey Kong to more linear challenges? I think so. In fact, I think we see one later on in this video, as Donkey Kong actually enters a 2D section that looks very reminiscent to Donkey Kong Country, complete with a barrel and everything. Back to the shot of Donkey Kong climbing, we can see just how vast this entire level seems to be, with it having a very strong steampunk aesthetic, with smokestacks shaped as giraffes polluting the environment out in the distance. I think this pollution is probably done by the villains, and specifically a company called Voidco, which we'll cover more when we get to the bosses, but we can see on this miner monkey's uniform. I'm not saying this game is going to have a deep story. It is a game about Donkey Kong where he wants to get more bananas. However, I would not be surprised in the slightest if it has a pretty strong environmental message. Think about it, a mining company called Voidco, it doesn't get much more evil than that, is coming in and disrupting this beautiful land that Donkey Kong loves. We see it getting polluted. I can't think of a better reason for Donkey Kong to get out there and start fighting enemies. We also see Donkey Kong rolling around, and this is what I'm saying about the momentum. Look at how he rolls into climbing, back into rolling. The movement in this game is going to be nuts, and I would not be surprised if rolling down hills increases your top speed. When Donkey Kong scales up to the top of this mountain, we can see a water bubble. Now, that's not actually something that's in the water bottle. I believe that's just this flower or leaf behind it, but also up here are real live monkeys. So clearly not everything has been taken over by Voidco. These aren't the gold metallic miner monkeys that we saw earlier, so these guys are likely peaceful, especially because we don't see them turn to start attacking Donkey Kong. Next, we see Donkey Kong pile drive into the ground, digging through the terrain to spawn a bunch of those golden nuggets and one of those other coins that we mentioned at the start of the game. There is no real indicator here saying that, oh, this is a spot where Donkey Kong can dig, so it truly looks like this is something DK will be able to do wherever, which is gonna make these massive open levels so much more dynamic, as you can literally go wherever you want, even through the ground. Next, we see Donkey Kong pulling up a giant rock from the ground, but before we get there, I wanted to zoom in on this poster on the back. This is one of the boss monkeys that we'll see later on, and that does look like a similar Voidco logo over on the right, so I genuinely do think that's gonna be like the name of the evil tribe or company that's coming in and destroying everything. But yeah, besides that, Donkey Kong can just pick up a giant rock and then use it to destroy everything. That includes this giant golden banana statue that then obviously spawns out a bunch of golden little pebbles that I'm sure you can pick up. Next, we see Donkey Kong smashing into the ground, confirming that you can dig straight down even if you're not jumping and doing that pile drive move we saw earlier. And we get a look of how the camera's gonna work when you are underground. I think the way this looks is super good. This could have been easily very confusing, but the way they have the camera culling out everything else hopefully means that you'll never really lose track of where you are underground. Next, we see Donkey Kong with another rock in his hands, but this one is glowing a purplish red, and we see why 2 frames later, because that thing explodes, once again revealing a lot of gold. Now I'm gonna take a brief pause here. We're about to dive into how the combat looks just so good, but I want to talk about this gold. What could it do? Throughout this trailer, we pretty much only see Donkey Kong in these overalls, but I would not be surprised at all if he gets different costumes. On top of that, Donkey Kong has a far more robust moveset than Mario. He has more options for mobility and more options for attack, so at the same time, maybe you can trade in these gold pieces to something like this monkey god temple that we see later on to get blessed with upgrades for your new abilities. Moving on, we see Donkey Kong punching the heck out of the snow, including this NPC. Next, we see a shot of Donkey Kong rolling into an enemy that then goes to hit another enemy, which drops once again not only those coins but those gold nuggets. Donkey Kong also collects some sort of shiny gold stone relic thing that follows him along, indicating that it's obviously an important collectible. We see more of this frenetic momentum-based combat as Donkey Kong rolls into a stone guy, which reveals his underskeleton of gold that then gets punched into another enemy. This is what I was saying about these combos. You're gonna be able to pull off some crazy stuff, chaining enemies to hit other enemies, and I'm sure that will get built on with new abilities and whatnot. Next, we see another shot of that purple exploding rock in what looks like it's a boss arena. However, unlike in a game like Odyssey, where once you start a boss fight against, say, one of the Brutals, a giant invisible barrier comes up and locks you in that boss fight, here it just looks like Donkey Kong can leave and go wherever, which further emphasizes how insane the freedom of this game is going to be. Moving on, we see Donkey Kong going all the way down. This kind of reminded me of like going to the depths in Tears of the Kingdom. And we also see this sort of buried shining banana, which will be this game's main collectible similar to Moon's, and we even see the collect animation later on. Next, you can see Donkey Kong take a piece of rock, spin it, and jump on it. Once again, the momentum here, that is going to be what differentiates this game from, say, a 3D Mario. Whether it's in the combat or in the movement, there is just such a tangible weight to everything we can see here. And that pairs so well from a game design perspective with the ability to just destroy any environment you're in. Next, we see Donkey Kong in a barrel getting shot upwards with some monkeys that clearly are not possessed by the Voidco gold thing cheering him on. He gets shot up all the way to Ingot Isle, and here we can see a lot of the different signs. They got a tool store, a karaoke spot, and a poker place. Can you play poker in this game? I doubt it, but that would be so money. It looks like you can walk into the place labeled Poker Chimps, so who knows, maybe there's some sort of like casino minigame. Next, we see that 2D section I was talking about earlier, and then a massive shot of this open world with the minecarts. The minecart clearly is using some sort of electric or fuel here, so maybe you have to power up the minecart with the gold ingots. Next, we see those blue guys in some sort of dance number, and then that Donkey Kong temple warship looking thing with once again a glowing spot at the bottom of the altar, meaning you will likely be able to walk here and hopefully perform some sort of upgrade. Next, we see Donkey Kong with a giant glowing banana. Look at him, he's so happy. And the purple companion guy coming alive, very likely at the start of the game, scaring Donkey Kong a little bit as well. Editor's note, that is not the face of someone that is scared a little bit. I don't know why I said that. Donkey Kong is freaking out. Here we see some weird fish-looking NPC, and then Donkey Kong breaking through that same blue metallic-y texture. And I don't know what's behind him, but it looks like a giant sandworm type thing. Hopefully some sort of boss or massive set piece you get to fight, because I don't know what this is, but it's huge, and it also looks to be underground. Next, we see some NPC, which is likely giving Donkey Kong a mission, as this ostrich even high-fives with Donkey Kong outside of what looks to be some sort of home or shop area. I'm pretty sure this is a shop because it has the exact same icon icon as the coins that I've been pointing out this entire video. Next, we see Donkey Kong once again being extremely expressive with bananas in his eyes. And then this is the shot that I think confirms that these golden bananas in the ground will be similar to Odyssey's moons, because Donkey Kong breaks this one open and immediately a little animation plays along with a banana sound effect. This is giving me heavy You Got a Moon vibes from Mario Odyssey. And what's funny is that the little rocks that get split off from the bananas even have the little inside of banana texture. This obviously doesn't impact gameplay, and I'm trying to stick to things that impact gameplay here, but you can even see monkey faces on these leaves. This game just looks so good, man. It's an absolute technical showcase of what the Switch 2 is capable of. Next, we see what I think is probably a shot from the beginning of the game, with some sort of moon rock-like feature pushing Ingot Isle way down, likely so Voidco can use it as their mining corporation headquarters. We even see Donkey Kong being whisked away. Again, I think this is likely at the start of the game. Speaking of Voidco, this is our best look at them yet. We see a bunch of different bosses here, including this miner guy that I mentioned earlier with the Voidco patch on his shoulder. We also get a look at this rock monstrosity, these bosses which are holding a bunch of those banana moon-like things, this guy who I would not be surprised if they were the final boss, who also has what looks to be like a peeled banana phone with the Voidco logo on it. Once again, reinforcing that, yeah, all these guys are part of Voidco, and that's going to be the main story and progression of this game. Donkey Kong is absolutely terrified here, and then boom, another boss, and then another boss, and then another boss. With this girl-looking boss, once again, you can see Voidco on, well, I don't really know what this is. It looks like a perfume bottle? No, that's not a joke. I genuinely think she'll be spraying like some sort of toxic perfume at Donkey Kong. But once again, if you have any other better guesses, let me know down below. Next, we see another look at this boss guy with his banana phone looking thing, and then to end it all off, Donkey Kong coming straight to the screen. Boom, Donkey Kong Bonanza. Oh yeah, one more thing. This game is coming out in July. This is not even the big holiday title. Okay, so to sum it up, from a gameplay perspective, the main core concepts here are going to be freedom and momentum. Freedom in the sense of there is going to be a lot to do here. In almost every shot, there are multiple points of interest filled with different NPCs, potential shops, and potential missions for Donkey Kong to do. Also freedom in the sense of, hey, you can dig anywhere. You can shape the level to be how you want it by digging through hills, climbing up mountains, and more. Secondly, momentum, not just in terms of how you move, such as the rolling and pile drive move where you take your momentum and slam it to the ground, but also momentum in the combat, with Donkey Kong hitting enemies into other enemies, using combos and chain reactions to take a bunch of people down. The story of this game is going to be focused on this evil company called Voidco, which is likely taking this Ingot Isle area down into the mines. The main story of this game is likely going to be that Voidco, like, I don't know, stole a bunch of bananas or something, because it's Donkey Kong. However, I genuinely do think there will be pretty heavy environmentalist undertones as we see such natural landscapes, but also such devastating pollution. So there we have it. That's my thoughts on what Donkey Kong Bonanza will be from its initial reveal trailer. Let me know anything I might have missed and what you guys think about this trailer down in the comments below, because I think it looks so good, man. Hopefully you guys can get my excitement from this video. The more I'm looking at this trailer, the better I think it is, and the more excited I get for a brand new Donkey Kong 3D platformer. Anyways, I gotta edit this video and we got so much more coverage coming soon. Mario Kart Worlds looks amazing. As soon as that analysis is up, the video will be on screen right now, but make sure to subscribe because we got so much content coming to you guys soon, all about Switch 2. I'm Thomas from the Switched Up, signing off. Peace.